Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, non-binary, distinguished guests, welcome to Ridiculous, the Life of a Clown.
Hi all, I'm John Towsen. I'm in New York City. I do lots of things. I'm 69 years old, and I've had a bunch of careers. Some of them had to do with clowns and circus and the performing arts and things like that. I started actually as a child actor on television in New York, and ironically or prophetically, my first acting experience ever was just around my 7th birthday, and was in a skit with Red Skelton and Jackie Gleason.
Oh, that's amazing.
And anyway, I went on to do that, and I worked with some famous people. And then I sort of led a normal life, or tried to for a while. In college, I got back into the performing arts, but then I got into clowning, and through different, both historically and practically. Historically, when I was a graduate student at NYU, through Brooks McNamara, who was a professor who was fanatically interested in popular entertainments in general and their legitimacy as a performing arts form. And I studied circus with Hovey and Judy Burgess, now Judy Finelli. They were my first circus teachers. That was at NYU. And one thing led to another. I studied with a lot of Lecoq people. I ended up doing a lot of clown performance. Had a partner, Fred Yockers, and we worked together for, 10, 12 years, doing a two-man show. And somewhere in there, I got an offer to write because I'd done some writing, to write a history of clowns, which I wrote. I didn't really want to do it, but they offered me money. I was 25, 26 years old. What did I know? But I did it, And
this book is Clowns, A Panoramic History of Fools, Jesters, Medieval Mimes, Jongleurs and Minstrels, Pueblo Indian Delight Makers, and Cheyenne Contraries, Harlequins, Perrots, Theatrical Buffoons, etc.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a subtitle or just a blurb. I was never sure about that. If I get around to reissuing the book, my title is going to be Clowns, Volume 1. And leave it at that.
Very nice. Right now, the book is, I think, what you're the most known for within our community. It is kind of the definitive textbook on clowns for people who are studying it in an academic sense.
I think not just an academic sense. Most academics don't study clowns, but performers do, because they are very interested in their own tradition. So one thing that's been gratifying about it is, over the years, it's been 41 years, I've had so many people, clowns, say to me how important it was to them, because it gave them a sense of legitimacy, a sense of their tradition, and that what they're doing had value, and so the book meant a lot to them. So that was good. To me, it's something I did a long time ago. So I'm a different person now. But anyway, to make the bio very rapid fire here. So I continue to do that. I got married. I had kids. I had to take a regular job. I taught college for 26 years. That started involving the performing arts, and it got more over into digital media and stuff. So I was really away from the scene for a long time, and didn't really get back into it. It's about 10 years, 12 years ago, and I retired from the college teaching 7 years ago. So now I've been back, and I've been I have a physical comedy blog. I've been directing some shows. I've been running the New York City Physical Comedy Lab. I am supposedly revising and reissuing the Clowns book, not updating it. It's still only going to go through 1975, which is why I'm calling it Volume 1. And I also have a physical comedy book on the back burner, or maybe even getting closer to the front burner. So I'm doing a lot of different things right now, but I have too many projects, essentially.
So before we talk about the book in any length, tell me about the Physical Comedy Lab.
Physical Comedy Lab is something. I started a version of it with Audrey Crabtree in New York. I don't know how many years ago that would be now. 6. I'm just guessing. Grew out of a workshop I did at the Clown Theater Festival. And a lot of people are interested in continuing the work. I'd been away from it for a long time, and I got dragged back into teaching physical comedy, which I had developed a kind of specialized course in. I was very surprised, having been away, that so few clowns knew any of the stuff I knew, and they wanted me to teach it. And so we started this lab. We tried to keep together a group of about 8 people to meet weekly, and we did some good stuff. It was fun, but it's hard, especially in New York, to keep a group together like that on a regular schedule. It started dissipating after less than maybe a year, a little less. And Audrey and I and Billy Schultz went off and decided just to work on our own rather than try to maintain the lab. But then 3 years ago, next month I think it was, it started it up again with a new formula, which was not basically not having a regular group, and it was anybody could come. The idea was you were experienced. It's not a class for beginners. It's not even a class. It's a jam for experienced practitioners in the field. And there's no set plans. I'm not the teacher. I'm the organizer. We come there. We do a warm up. We pass the warm up. Hey, who wants to start the warm up? Okay, I'll do a few things. You do a few things. Different people lead it, and after a certain point, we feel warmed up. Okay, well, what do you want to work on today? Well, and sometimes I'll bring in things that I'm interested in working on, but other times I don't. And other people come up with ideas, and sometimes it's people share skills. Could be hat juggling, could be partner acrobatics, slapstick stuff, anything, or also, we do games, we do improvs, different kind of exercises, work on gag ideas, movement ideas, anything. And sometimes one thing leads to another. There's like this chain reaction. You don't even know where you started from, but you got to something else. And the idea is that it's a research lab in the sense that you can just explore stuff, without the pressure of opening nights in 2 weeks, so we have to stop, or that we have to know where we're going.
Yeah.
Let's just go further with this. Okay, you can do that trick. Well, what else can you do with this object? So it's very open ended, and it's working out okay. It's hard. It's always hard to get people together. And New York is crazy. Everybody has 6 jobs and is running around and stuff. So, but we average, 8 to 12 people a week, and do some fun stuff.
So going back to the beginning for you, to when you started performing, what brought you into television at such an early age?
Oh, well, friend of the family. I grew up in a bohemian household in Greenwich Village, and my parents were Marxists, and my father was a printer and sort of in business for himself. And there was a friend of the family who was a successful actress, and convinced my parents to send photos of their kids to her agent. And I don't know, one thing led to another. I got audition, and I got the job, and I got more auditions, and I often got the job. I was a cute blonde kid. I think that helped. Kind of all-American looks or something, which is kind of funny because I had sort of the opposite background. And I assume I had some acting talent because I had some really good roles. I had a couple of good dramatic roles. So who knows?
Well, what were some of the highlights of that youth career?
Well, I don't remember it super well, but I did kind of enjoy it. I wasn't like, I didn't feel like I was being forced to do anything. I got to work with some people. The people I worked with were very nice. I was worked with Julie Andrews on the original Cinderella. I worked with Robert Preston, Patty Duke, a lot of people like that. It was sort of, it was normal for me because it's just what I did. I mean, I knew other kids didn't do it, but it was what I did.
Okay, so jumping ahead, because Clowns, the book, is a big reason, one of the big reasons I want to talk to you. What prompted the offer to write the book?
Oh, it's just one of these freakish things. I mean, the editor, Beth Backman at Hawthorne Books, acquisitions editor, and what they do is try to find out, come up with ideas for books that don't exist, right? That's their job. And she looked around and she saw there wasn't really any kind of authoritative book in English on the history of clowns. And she had found out about me through a connection as somebody who'd already done some writing and somebody who was performing as a clown. And so she wrote me and wanted me to come up with a proposal. And I was, like I said, I was 25, or I was like, I've done some reading in this area, I was in graduate school. I could do research, but I was like, I'm too young. I don't know. I'm not going to do this. This is stupid. It's crazy. And I didn't do much of anything. I didn't do anything. And then, except mention it to some friends, and they were like, "Are you crazy? I've been trying to get published for 15 years, and you get an offer, and you don't." They were like really mad at me. So, okay, well, maybe I'll write a proposal. And one afternoon, I remember sitting down and I just wrote this proposal in like 3 hours and sent it off, and I thought nothing of it. And I didn't hear anything from them, because the way it works is that the editor gives it to their salesman, and the salesman, probably all men in those days, the sales staff take it to the bookstores and say, do you think you can sell this book? Right? And if they get a good answer from the bookstores, then you get a contract. Right? So I think 6 months went by when suddenly I got this phone call and saying, hey, they want to do the book, and they're going to give me a $10,000 advance, which is, which
for
was
that
about,
period, yeah.
Yeah, but that was like my annual salary or something, or more so. Actually, I think it was $6,000 up front and $4,000 when I delivered the manuscript. So that's how it happened. I was just in it for the money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's we love our art, but we need to pay the rent. So you had to do. I'm assuming you had to do a tremendous amount of research for this book, because it covers so much of the history and origin of clowns in not just Western culture, but other cultures as well, that Aboriginal cultures that have a clown archetype. Can you tell me about that process?
I think the process is probably a blur to me, but yeah, there was a ton of research. I was younger and faster then, I guess, and I was just able to, I don't know, go in, dig, and make connections and put things together. I think if I were to try it now, it might take me 4 years instead of a little over a year. I mean, I did it in a little over a year. So, yeah, kind of amazing now that you mention it. But I had, Brooks McNamara was my editor. So, he helped me with the writing. He was Brooks was very good on clarity. And Hovey and Judy Burgess, I had helped Hovey on, been the editor for his book, Circus Techniques, the year before. And so they helped me on my book. Hovey was and still is a real encyclopedist on circus and clown stuff. So he'd help with stuff, and Judy as well. And Judy shot all the photos for my book.
Really? There's a gorgeous photography in that book. I didn't know that. I've known Judy for many years. I did not know she did a lot of the photography.
She did the photography. I mean, not of the original clown. I mean, they come the pictures come from all over, but she went to me she went with me to the libraries and shot stuff in the archives and things like that. Yeah.
Makes sense.
And so that was a big help. And somehow it happened. It's like, how does a show happen? The show must go on. You have a deadline, and it happens.
So currently on Goodreads, the book is ranked 4.5 out of 5 stars. There's only one comment review, and it's from me from about 5 or 6 years ago, talking about how much of an impact the book had on me personally. And it did. It really expanded my interest in maybe the anthropological function of clown.
It has a lot of testimonials on Amazon, because my practice is when I get one of those letters, somebody telling me how much it meant to them, I say, thank you, I really appreciate that. Now go right back on for me.
Well, and on Amazon, a brand new copy runs just under $200. How big was your print run, if you recall, when they first released the book?
I think all told, there was more than one print run for the hardcover, and then there was the paperback. I think there may have been as many as 20,000, but I don't know. Maybe I just fantasized that. It did okay, but what happened was Hawthorne got bought by Dutton, and Dutton got bought by the Dutch publishing giant Elsevier, and so along the way that they decided to let the book go out of print, limited shelf space in bookstores and all that. So I got the rights to it. So it was really only in print for a few years or something, I think.
But it's wonderful that the rights reverted back to you. So when you say that you are quote unquote working on updating it, what kind of time frame are you looking at with that?
I have a November 2016 deadline.
Okay. Yeah. How did that go?
Getting a little sketchy. Well, a couple of things happened. Well, I won't get into that.
So,
but let's just say it is happening. It's not just a fantasy. Let me tell you what the new edition will be. It'll cover the same time period. However, two major changes. One of which is a lot's been written about a lot of the things in that book, so there's a lot more information out there, and that will be reflected in the chapters. In fact, the 12 chapters of the book will be 15. Because 3 of the chapters I'm dividing into 2 chapters.
Nice.
Just because there's so much and it will make more sense. So there will be more information. That's one biggie. The other thing is the new version will have, I would say, probably 150 new color images.
Wonderful.
Because they are readily available these days from museums, usually for free. Like I went through the British Museum archives, and here's 12 images I could use in the new book, and I send them the ID numbers, and the next day they've sent me high-res files that with no royalty fees.
Oh, that's amazing.
But it's also true of Library of Congress, Metropolitan Museum. Things are becoming, the digital archives are pretty amazing. Things are becoming available, so it's a lot easier. You just sort of become an aggregator. So it will be more of it will be at least a 9x12 format instead of a 6x9. It will have probably more text, but it will have a lot more graphically going forward. And the other thing, the easier part, there will actually be a second book, a companion volume, which I'm calling the Clown Files. And that's just documents from clown history. This is stuff I have So it's not that hard for me to put together. It's not original writing. I'm not original by me, but it's things like scripts and manifestos and first-hand accounts and stuff like that. Interesting stuff. It's not a page turner.
Are you going to be releasing a digital version as well?
Yeah, likely at some point.
I know. In this day and age, I do almost all of my reading on a device.
Yeah.
You never leave it behind. You never lose your book. It never gets borrowed and not returned. It's always with you wherever you go. So, as someone who's interested deeply in the history of clowns and the kind of evolution of clown through culture, what other texts and sources other than yours would you recommend people reach out to?
That's too big of a question. I mean, I'd have to email you a list of 100 books or something. I mean, clown. Clown is such a big word. I don't get hung up on the word all that much. So many arguments over what's a real clown and what isn't and stuff. But
that's half our podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it depends on what aspect of it you're interested in, and you could go anywhere. There will be the new and updated bibliography.
Wonderful. So leaving the book aside, going back to your performing career, what made you hang that up?
It was a combination of things, I think. One was simply logistical. I was married. My first son was born. And he, I couldn't travel 9 months out of the year. I needed health insurance, blah, blah, blah. And I was able to get this college teaching job. And I thought I'd still be able to do everything, and that was an illusion. And so I sort of drifted away. I mean, that was part of it, just kind of like I just couldn't do everything. And, the other thing was, too, I really felt, I managed to make a living performing, so I must have had something going for me, but I never really felt I didn't really feel like it was my true calling. I felt like I was with shows that I was very creative, and when I worked with people on shows, I was the one who often did the writing, and I was the one who had a lot of the staging directorial ideas. So I drifted more towards that, than to performing, and maybe it was more fun for me, to be honest with you. But it was just also more practical at that point in my life.
That makes complete sense. So
I always say my greatest gift to clowning was when I retired from clowning. So,
so you still teach on occasion. I remember just a couple years ago you came up to San Francisco and gave some lectures at the Circus Center for the Clown Conservatory and other students about clown and history of clowns. Is that something you're still doing?
Yeah, I mean, I am. Like, I'm going to be teaching in Italy in April. I've done more teaching in Europe than here. The thing is, at this point in my life, I taught college for 26 years, so I don't have this like great urge to always be teaching. I enjoy it when I do it, especially with clowns. Because people who really want to learn what I have to teach, as opposed sometimes with college when they can just be there because they need the credits and they don't really care. So it's fun teaching when I do, but I don't really want to do it full time. I'm supposedly retired. The money's always good, but I don't necessarily need the money to survive. So I'm not really out there hustling like that. And So I'm more excited by things that are creative. So that's working on shows or the explorations we do in the lab than I am in teaching. But I mean, I like to do it, sometimes. I like to do it sometimes, just not full time.
Let's talk briefly about physicalcomedy.blogspot.com. Do I have that right?
Physicalcomedy.blogspot.com sounds right to me. Yeah.
How did it come into be? What is your goal in doing it? How do you curate what kind of material you put up?
When I started drifting back into this realm 10, 12 years ago, or being pulled back in by old friends who wanted me to do stuff, I think I hit on the blog because this physical comedy book that I said is sort of on the back burner is something I started literally in the late 80s. I mean, I had a Fulbright to France in 1990 to do research for it. I mean, it's a half-done book and could be a full-done book. But I knew I'd been away a long time, so I looked at the blog as a way of getting back in and re-examining everything. And it was a new era. It was the digital era. Suddenly you could find everything on YouTube. So that's kind of how it started, and I enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoy writing, and I enjoy the detective work of the history of it all, and that was true of the clown book and the revising the clown book, but it's true of the physical comedy stuff too, which I don't, by the way, see as specifically clown. I'm interested in physical comedy in all of its manifestations. They don't necessarily revolve around the clown character. I mean, they're very, very close. Obviously, a lot of connections, but it was somewhat of a change of focus to me to go into that. And it was also when I was teaching this stuff. I had originally taught some college courses, like in summer theater programs and stuff. And I developed 3 full-length courses. One was clown, one was circus, and one was physical comedy. These were all practical courses.
Okay.
And I found that I liked them all, but I found the physical comedy one I felt was the most original because I was really researching different kinds of techniques, partner acrobatic things, all kinds of slapstick stuff. I was studying Keaton movies and reconstructing bits and moves, and then I was evolving this curriculum where I really integrated skills with character and story and because it was a full-length college course, so we really had time to put it all together, and that doesn't happen in these intensive workshops. So the physical comedy thing became my emphasis, and that's why that's also the emphasis of the blog. Now I'm, in the last couple of years I've been busy with other things, and I haven't even been on the blog hardly at all until like a couple of months ago when I finally kind of pulled myself together and decided I'm going to try to get out a post every week, and I've been doing that. I enjoy it. I think one of the problems is I have an idea for a post and I tell myself I can do that in an hour or two, and one thing leads to another, and one lead, one clue, and my desire to rewrite everything all the time. I find out I just spent 10 hours on a post. It's like, no, I don't have that amount of time for this post. So I think I may be, I should be phasing it out and just do the damn book.
Okay, so before we wrap up, a couple more final questions. First off, if people want to find you and your work online, where should they look for you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. That's Facebook and the blog are probably the best places, and my email's available on just my name at gmail.com. So I'm very easy to reach. I'm in New York City. I travel a lot, but I'm here about 8 months out of the year. I'm very easy to find. And performers out there, if they visit New York, are very welcome to come to the lab. We often have out of town guests, out of the country guests, and you get to meet me and a lot of other clown physical comedy types in New York. Yesterday we had 4 people from the Happenstance Theater from Maryland, and they're in town doing a show, and they all came to the lab. We've had people from Europe, from Mexico, Brazil, all over the place. So yeah, I'm pretty easy to track down, I would say.
Okay. Second to last question. In terms of the media that influenced you as a performer, I guess maybe also in your more scholarly activities, what are some pieces of media, and be they play, clown, music, theater, film, whatever, that you think are maybe overlooked and people should be paying more attention to?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm amazed that a lot of maybe younger performers don't know much of anything about the silent era. I mean, I've taught workshops for clowns who are good clowns. They're good performers. They've never seen a Buster Keaton movie. So obviously he's not unknown, but I'm kind of amazed that people don't know that stuff. I mean, that should be a requirement. if this were a required course, you would have to watch. And Keaton was somebody who I really related to a lot, and I've written this on the blog. But back in the day, in the 70s, or I guess in the 70s, VHS was just coming out, and Keaton certainly wasn't on the early VHS. If you want to see Keaton movies, you had to go to the Elgin Cinema, which was like one of these old dirty revival movie theaters. Now it's the fancy Joyce Theater, the dance theater, but it was the Elgin, and once a year they'd have a Keaton festival, and you'd go there with your notebook and you'd watch, and half the clowns in New York would be there. Hovey Burgess would be two rows away, and everybody would be watching it. That's how we learned. Later oh my God, Keaton's on VHS, oh, the shorts, oh my God, they got the shorts. So, but I guess I would say the stuff. I mean, I don't tell people, what they should do around, but the stuff that I find interesting is the stuff I put on my blog, and I'm up to something like 430 posts, and the posts are substantial. They include more than one thing. They include some real writing and research. Most of them do. So, there's a treasure trove there.
Yeah, I was looking at it just the other day, and there's a fairly recent post in which you've got Red Skelton, the I can't remember the name of the product, but there's something of a gin, Guzzler's Gin.
Guzzler's Gin, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just shocked at how incredibly verbal it was. The entire piece. I guess I hadn't seen as much Red Skelton as I thought I had.
He did all kinds of stuff. I mean, he was parodying a commercial, so that's why he was playing the text against the movement of the drunk. So I mean, that's the whole point there. But he did straight mime stuff. He did all kinds of.
Actually, the subpoena gag in that piece was just, I'd never seen that gag before, and I was really taken with it, taken to the degree that I'll probably take it at some point. But that was really funny. Okay, one last question, John, before we let you go. If you could tag 3 other clowns to be on this podcast after you, who would they be?
Oh my God, let's see. You want obvious choices or less obvious choices?
It's up to you. It's your decision.
How about some good women clowns?
Love them.
uh, most of the when I see clowns, most of the better clowns these days are women, and I'm not just saying that to be politically correct. I think they're taking over, which is good. Let's see, who are some interesting women clowns? I mean, in abroad, I mean, Caroline Dream, who wrote a book, The Clown Inside You. She's in Barcelona, but she's British, and she has Skype. She's on Facebook. She's married to Alex Navarro, who has the clownplanet.com blog in Spanish. But she's very good. In France, Caroline Simons, who runs the whole Paris hospital clown operation, very interesting woman, also on Facebook. In the United States, there's a ton. There's Hillary Chaplin, who I work with at the lab every week. Audrey Crabtree, who's out in Circus Harmony in St. Louis. Diane Wozniak, who I'm sure you know, if you haven't had her on yet. Mookie Cornish, who...
I love Mookie so much. I haven't seen her in years, but she's so good.
Yeah. That's enough. That's more than 3.
Okay, so John, thank you so much for talking with us, and we look forward to everything else you've got coming out in the near future.
Yeah. I hope I'll get organized enough to knock some of them off instead of having 8 going at the same time and finishing nothing. That's sort of where I'm at sometimes, but never a dull moment.
All right, it was lovely talking to you, man.
Okay, thanks for doing this.
Right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us today on Ridiculous Life of a Clown. This program, as always, is made possible by your support through our Patreon, which you can find through www.picklewater.com. Also, please join us this coming January 27th, 2018 at 7 p.m. at Stageworks Theater in San Francisco for a huge circus gala featuring clowns, comedians, and burlesque dancers, all in benefit of Planned Parenthood. Hope to see you then. Bye-bye.